A very happy morning, all of you. How are you all? I hope you all are keeping well and staying fit and healthy. Students, in today's video class, we shall cover up the second part of the grammar chapter, phrases and clauses, which is a very crucial lesson in grammar. But first of all, students, let's recap what we have studied earlier in the first part of the video. Students, as we know that both phrases and clauses are a group of words, but students, a phrase does not contain a subject and predicate, whereas a clause contains a subject and a predicate. This is the first difference between a phrase and a clause. Second difference is that a phrase cannot convey a complete thought, right? Whereas a clause sometimes convey a complete thought. A student, third difference is, which we have already studied, phrases cannot stand alone, whereas independent clauses can stand alone. As we studied earlier in the first part of the video, student, that clauses are of two types. First type is independent clause or main clause, and another type is dependent clause or subordinate clause only. An independent clause is a group of words that contain a subject and a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. Student, an independent clause is a sentence only, whereas a dependent clause is a group of words that contain a subject and verb, but that does not express a complete thought. Student, a dependent clause, cannot be a sentence. So now we are going to study, student, what phrases and their kinds and clauses and their kinds in today's video. So student, the first kind of phrase is a noun phrase. So students, a noun phrase is a phrase which acts like a noun, right, in a sentence. And students, it contains a noun and other associated words which modifies the noun. For instance, the example is here: a woman in the window shouted for help. So here, a student, is a woman in the window is a noun phrase. Why? As a woman, the word woman is a noun, and in the window is just describing the noun. And another example is students, she bought a decent black shirt. So is a noun phrase as it describes shirt, which is a noun, right? So it is what it is. It is a noun phrase only. The next type of phrase is, student, a verb phrase. A student, a verb phrase is a group of main verb and helping verb within a sentence. For example, students, she has finished her work. So here, has finished is a verb phrase, as finished is the main verb here and has is the helping verb here, right? And the next example is, you should study for exam. So here, should study is a verb phrase and study is the main verb and should is the helping verb here. So let's study the next type of phrase, student, adjective phrase. So obviously we know that an adjective is a word which qualifies a noun or a pronoun. So such a group of words which qualifies a noun or a pronoun, they are called adjective phrase only. Here example, we can say, she has a ring made of gold. So here, a student, made of gold is a group of word which indicate, which is telling the quality of a ring. So he made of gold here is an adjective or adjectival phrase. Whereas she wore a nice shirt on his birthday. So a nice shirt, right, is an adjectival phrase here. A student, next type of uh, phrase is adverb phrase, right? So, right here, such a group of words which functions like an adverb is an adverbial phrase only. And as we know, an adverb is a word which modifies either a verb or an adjective or another adverb only, isn't it? So, such a word, such a group of word is called an adverbial phrase. Why? Because it functions like an adverb only, right? Example is written over here. They ran really fast only, right? They ran really fast here. Fast is an adverb, and and re- and really is providing more information about fast only. So here, student, we can say the really fast words really fast is they collectively they are an adverbial phrase only. Another example is he drank milkshake much quicker. Here, a student here, quicker is an adjective, and much student is telling the call modifying the word quicker. So here, much quicker is an adverbial phrase, right? Now, student, we have to study the kinds of dependent clause. As we know, student, a dependent clause or a subordinate clause also has three types, and they are, students. First type is first type is a noun clause. Second type is an adjective clause, and the next example is an adverbial an adverbial clause only, right? So what is a clause, students? What is a clause? A clause is a group of words which has subject verb combination and which has a complete meaning by itself only, isn't it? A group of words which has a subject verb combination and which gives a complete thought, means, right? So, student, this dependent clause has three types: noun clause, adjective clause, and adverb clause only. The first kind is, student, a noun clause only. So, as noun clause, what does a noun clause do, beta? Noun clause is a clause which functions like a noun only. So, as we can see, it is a group of words. Yes, it is a group of words. Does it have a subject and verb? Yes, it has a subject and verb. Right? Is it acting like a noun? Yes, it is acting like a noun. So we can see the first example. I fear that I will fail. So here, that I will fail is what? That I will fail. I is the subject and will fail is the verb. Right? So that I will fail is a dependent clause or subordinate clause. And which kind of dependent clause? It is a noun clause. Why? Because its meaning is totally dependent on which words? I fear. Right? So I fear here, students, is the independent clause, and that I will fail is a dependent clause only. Right? And here, that I will fail is a noun clause which is the object of the verb fear. Let's move on to the next example. The next example is written, that you have come pleases me. That you have come is a noun clause, students, as it is acting as the subject of the verb pleases, right? So basically this clause does the work of a noun only. Now now let's look into the next type of the clause, that is adjective clause, students. What does an adjective clause does? It is a group of words having subject and a verb on its own, and it acts as an adjective in a sentence only. Now what does an adjective do? Student, we every one of us know that it describes a noun or a pronoun only. And so does the adjective clause example. The example is written over here, student. The umbrella which has a broken handle is mine only. Here, student, the clause which has a broken handle is an adjective clause because it has the subject and a verb. It has a subject and a verb of its own, student, and this clause is qualifying, describing the umbrella also. So right, and the umbrella is a noun, right? So that is why this group of word means which is a clause is an adjective clause because it is describing what? The umbrella, which is a noun. Let's look into the next example, students. He met a girl whose eyes were blue. A student, here whose eyes were blue is an adjective clause, and the clause is having a student subject and verb. What is the subject? Eyes. And what is verb? Blue. Right? And it is describing the noun girl. So basically, students, this clause does the work of an adjective, hence it is an adjective clause. Let's look into the next type of clause. The next type of clause is an adverb clause. Adverb clause is a group of words and the subject and verb of its own. As you can see, clause itself is a what? A group of words which has a subject or a verb, and it, student, it acts as an adverb in a sentence. And as we know that an adverb modifies what? A verb or another or an adjective or another adverb in a sentence, right? That so does the adverb clause also, student. And the example is they rested when the evening came. So here, student, when the evening came is a clause as it has its subject evening and came a verb, and it is describing the verb rested. So it is an adverb clause. Let's look into, students, one more example. I will give you a map so that you can find a way. Student, here so that you can find a way is a clause as it has a subject which is you and a verb which is find, and it is describing the act of giving, isn't it? Verb, right? That is why basically this clause does the work of an adverb, right? Hence it is an adverbial clause. That's all about this video, student. Hope you have understood it. Thank you.